Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Before we had machines, we got help from horses. And when we started making machines, we measured the power based on how many horses the machine was able to duplicate. So in 1870, this Ransom and Sims could deliver the power of 20 horses. But it turned out that for you and me at home, what was much more useful than horsepower was fractional horsepower. Remember this page from Don Norman's book called The Invisible Computer, where he took a page out of the Sears and Roebuck catalog where you could buy a fractional horsepower motor, like a third of a horse, and then you could hook it up to all of this stuff, like a mixer and a blender and a clothes agitator and a vibrator or whatever. I'm not kidding about that. It does say. So this is fractional horsepower. So if you take the same trajectory, Kubrick and others sort of had this vision for big AI. And it turns out, as we all know, that fractional AI ends up being what most of us use every day, right? Like all of these little pieces of little bits of AI that are just smart enough to turn on my windshield wipers when it's wet out, or help me in braking, or help offer me assistance and direction, turn out to be the path that AI has proved, where it's proved most useful. So I think this is the app store of and I would challenge you tonight to think about really apps as adolescents, rather than being the sort of end state of what the future of computing looks like. And when I think about the future of computing, and the reason that I use the word enchanted is because I think that when we add intelligence into our lives, it's more useful when it's widely distributed. When it's widely distributed into objects that are purpose-built and have what they are, the functionality that they are, and then some. So whether that's brooms, or it's embodied in a potion, or it's embodied in a mirror for our narcissistic stepmother, or embodied in shoes that take you back to Kansas, or embodied in bodies, embodied in Wonder Woman's magic lasso that when you're in its snare, this is the perfect woman's enchanted object. You have to tell the truth when you're in Wonder Woman's lasso. So I've been thinking about and want to show you tonight examples from two companies and then some new work on furniture that attempts to enchant ordinary objects. One of my favorite examples from Middle-earth is Frodo's sword. Does anybody remember what Frodo's sword showed? Yes. Yes, very good. It glows when orcs are nearby. So it sort of signals its use. It's appropriate to use the device now. Inspired by Frodo's sword, one of the products that we did at Ambient Devices was an umbrella that glowed when rain was nearby. The data came from AccuWeather, which has zip code specific data for where it's going to rain, and we embedded a low-cost pager chip in the handle of the umbrella and just sent data over a pager network to the umbrella that would have this like little LED sprinkling pattern when rain was nearby. But as UI designers, you sort of understand why this item makes sense from an affordance perspective. Like you don't have to spend a lot of time explaining like this is how you read. This is the UI for navigating to the rain interface. You type in your URL and then the zip code, and then you get the weather about whether you need the umbrella today. right? It sort of skips over all of those steps. And in many ways, it was a better interface than this product, which I'm really proud of, which we did about 11 years ago at Ambient Devices. It was the first product called the Ambien Orb, and it was really a sort of curiosity about, could we put information in the simplest possible form and have it exist in people's peripheral vision so that it wasn't distracting and you could sort of attend to it throughout the day. And so people could go to a website and choose channels like, what's the pollen count in my zip code if I'm asthmatic or have kids asthma? What does the wind speed look like where my boat is, for example? What's the first derivative of barometric pressure? Do I need to attend to my garden? And all of this is sort of the insight for Ambien was to try to think about non-text-based interfaces. And the reason that that's important is the way that we attend to things, the cognitive psychologists tell us, is a distinct two-stage process where there's this non-verbal, non-textual, very fast, less than 250 milliseconds, in parallel sort of feature extraction stuff that we don't perceive as overwhelming. We sort of like sitting next to the window and being able to sort of see what the light level is outside, and we don't find that overwhelming. And so it's things like color or orientation or curviness or shape that we can all attend to in parallel and very fast. And so that's why this was a sort of a good object for being glanceable. The surprising story about Ambient Devices was we made these orbs. We thought people would like them. We thought they'd sort of track whatever data they care about, and people would sort of populate them around their houses in a nice way. What we didn't realize was we created obsessions for people. If people were tracking the stock market, which was the default behavior, people ended up trading like 4 times more often because they were just thinking about the stock market more. And we had one in our hall when we first did this, when we first had the first prototypes, and my wife would call me at work all the time. She'd be like, I think we need to trade today because the market's way down, so I called our broker and he's going to do some trades. And I'm like, no, that's exactly the wrong behavior, but it's interesting that you're so motivated to attend to something you never attended to before. And so we ended up using, and what the company is doing today is really focused on energy management and helping people to know what's the real-time load on the grid and the real-time price that I'm paying for energy, so that I can change my behavior and do the wash later and change and be more save money and be more conservation-minded. But what we talk about at the Tangible Media Group at the Media Lab is this sort of metaphor of digital shadows, which is to take ordinary objects with a display that people know and love, like a clock, and then augment that with some interesting new information. And this is a clock that we did, a little 3-inch by 3-inch clock, where the background color changed as you approached your appointment. So it sort of shifted from blue to yellow, and it would also show when you had meetings in your Google Calendar. And this is what I needed, which was if the meetings are geocoded, it shows you drive time. So that's the reason I'm always late, is I never calculate how long it's going to take to get there. But this is a very different vision for the future of computing, right? This is something where you try to spread the information as thinly as possible around your environment. And if you just do the thought experiment, what if you had an app for this? It's really easy. You just swipe to get the airspeed, and then you swipe again to get the altitude, and of course you want to spread it thinly, so the navigation is like a difference of 5 degrees of glance. But I'm really intrigued with this idea of how to change people's information, how to change behavior with information at different scales. And I just have 2 examples before we go on to vitality. And one of those is we worked with a company called NextBus, which puts GPS pucks on tops of buses, which is great, but not everybody has an app that helps them see when the next bus is coming. And urban planners tell us that if people knew when the next bus was coming, they might take public transportation a lot more. It's not, public transportation, it's, the reason people don't take it is not because it's too expensive and not because it's unsafe and not because it's smelly or people don't like bumping into other people. It's mostly because it's the pain of not having a fill bar and knowing, when the next one's coming, and you just bag and take the cab or whatever. So I'm sort of interested in the behavioral effects of ambient information, which when put into urban scale environments. And one I wanted to show you was, we worked with a bank in North Carolina that had this huge obelisk out front. And the CEO of the bank says, I want to show real-time customer feedback, customer satisfaction data on this obelisk, and tell everybody that works in the bank and all of our customers that drive by on the highway how we're doing, because I think it'll change people's behavior. So that's what they've done, and I guess they're doing well because it's blue all the time. That was the only color we installed. No, just kidding. Right. So with this idea of ambient information and trying to make things persuasive, I left Ambient Devices. I was kicked out of Ambient Devices, and we hired a new CEO. And there's all CEOs. The board can pull one lever, and they pulled it in our case. And I went and started another company just focused on behavior change about 4 years ago. And I just wanted to show you quickly that product and why I think it works, and then I'll show you some furniture. I mean, I guess this is all really furniture because it's not mobile in some, it's not on a convergence device. It's sort of distributed into your life. So we know that wear strips change people's consumption of brushes and blades, right? We know having sort of information about data at the point of consumption changes. And we also know that there are 3.5 billion, unfortunately, scripts, medication scripts that are prescribed each year in just the U.S. So the opportunity is huge for medication adherence. And so in order to try to affect this, we first started out by doing a lot of customer research, and we made this beautiful little day of the week pill container that was internet connected, and we thought it was great and beautiful, and people loved it. And then we went to CVS and Walgreens, and they said, nah, you can't do that. It's illegal. You can't combine drugs. We can't distribute drugs in that. There's light and tight regulations. There are drug interaction effects, blah, blah, blah. You have to use our pill bottles. So, so we went back to the drawing board and made this, which was an ordinary pill vial, and we just put a little wireless in the cap, and then designed some services to try to nudge people to do the right thing. And this, the fourth version of the product, embeds the gateway that sends the data to the web in this night light. Since I'm into like night lights, here, I'll plug it in here. So this makes a wireless connection to AT&T, and it's cute. And it talks to as many of these as you have in the house. So it can send dose frequency down to the cap, if it's a twice-a-day med or 4 times a day med or early in the morning or whatever, and it uploads battery level and times you've taken it to the cloud. And in studies, we got a big difference between stupid pill caps versus our pill caps. And I just wanted to show you a snapshot of the data, which is cool. So in a control group where we distributed coma caps, meaning caps that just gather data, we called them coma caps. This is anonymized, of course. These are people and days. Gray means we didn't have any data, but green means they opened the cap. They might have flushed the pill, but they opened the cap. And red is they didn't open the cap that day. And it's interesting to see that some people need a lot of, some people you should give up on. Some people need a lot of help, and some people don't need much help at all. But it's interesting that the people that need help keep needing help, like even 6 months out. Like people don't give up. But there are lots of patterns in this data around refills and that sort of thing. So when we turn all the services on, the data looks like that, which is cool. The little glyphs, the little dots are where we've either text messaged somebody or called them if they haven't opened it, if they haven't opened the cap. I want to show you this AT&T ad and maybe the Colbert Report. Let's see. I'm just going to turn it up.
This is the network, a network of possibilities.
This is airing.
In here, video games are not confined to screens. In here, medicine talks to you.
AT&T really likes this product, and they can sell a lot of nightlights.
In here, pets never get lost.
It's subsidized by the pharma companies or insurance.
It's the AT&T network, and what's possible in here is almost impossible to say.
That was fun when that aired, and this was also fun.
Remembering to take your pills can be difficult. I have a little mnemonic device I use to remind myself. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday are the days I take my pills. Or it might be nights, I don't remember. Well, the Vitality Corporation has a solution called Glow Caps. Jim?
Glow caps are internet-connected pill caps that go on regular pill bottles. Now, each day when it's time for Grandpa to take his heart pills, the glow cap pulses with this light. If he doesn't see this light for some reason, the glow cap plays a ringtone, kind of like a cell phone. Now, here's where it really gets
singer,
cool.
so we made them arpeggios.
If Grandpa misses a pill, the glow cap will call his home phone as a reminder.
This is perfect, because while old people can be forgetful, they are great when it comes to setting up the internet, recognizing cell phone ringtones, and accessing voicemail messages.
That was like... that was a high point of my year. I didn't know that was happening. That was coming. That was fun. So I just want to, I think it's instructive after spending 3 or 4 years doing sort of behavioral change and for health to tell you why I think these work. And we really looked at a lot of research and tried a bunch of things. But I think there are really 4 things that make them useful. One is fast feedback loops. The best practice in the industry right now is if you haven't refilled your script and it's been 10 days since it was since you were supposed to come in for a refill, then they call you or send you a letter. It's like, you might have decided like 40 days ago to stop taking the pill, but it's sort of like training your dog like next month, you know, after they wet the, you know, right? So, I mean, it seems like the feedback needs to be fast. We also tried to trap why people aren't taking their medications. So,
one for yes.
We asked them.
Or no. Why aren't you taking your medication today? Do you need a refill? Press 1. Are you traveling or away from your medication? Press 2. Having trouble paying for your medication? Press 3. If you don't believe it's helping you, press 4.
So,
if you have questions about your medication,
so we tried to take all of the reasons for non-adherence, like price,
press 1 to be connected.
or they don't feel like they need the med, or that sort of thing. And we tried to ask them what the reason was and then do something about it very soon, like get them a subsidy program, get them to talk to a pharmacist, etc. And this is something I didn't, I hope you like my whiteboard sketch from yesterday, but it seems like it seems like we tried to make this like sort of escalation of obnoxiousness because you're living with this thing day in and day out, so it really can't be obnoxious, otherwise you're going to throw it out the window. So we try to do sort of like the least noticeable thing first, like we start off by using, by just subtly pulsing with light, and then we play cute little arpeggios, and we finally text people or call them, but that only happens after 4 hours or so, and I feel like that's one of the design principles for furniture too, is like you sort of have to use the subtlest possible touch or the lightest possible touch, otherwise you don't want to live with the thing over time. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So the other one was a social incentive, which was we shared data about days you did or didn't take your med with a loved one, which I think is really important. There's a researcher at Harvard named Christakis who wrote a book called Connected, and I love this quote from him. I love this idea from him, but he said, if you're trying to get somebody to change their behavior, Like, just imagine they're in a herd of charging buffalo. Like, it doesn't make sense to go up to one buffalo and say, like, why are you heading in that direction? Like, why am I heading in there? Like, we are heading in this direction, all of us together. Like, it's not, like, it has nothing to do with me. It's not my choice. Like, I think, thinking about behavior change in this way is really useful, because I think getting one person to do something differently without considering the sort of context is sort of ridiculous, or maybe a waste of time. So we also sent data to their doctor, which persuaded some people, and we also tried to make refills easier by having a push to refill button on the bottom. So it's sort of like, give me more of that, give me more booze, or whatever. So I think these things all taken together, and I think there's something important about the combination of incentives that I like to think of as sort of chords. Like, it's not just, we're not trying to find the one thing to do to you, but we're trying to find like the three things to do at the same time that might be persuasive. So that's all I say about medication adherence. But I will say that the company was acquired about a year ago by Patrick Soon-Shiong, who's the richest guy in LA, and he owns some, what are some of those teams in LA? The baseball team, I mean, yeah, Dodgers, he just bought a chunk of the Dodgers, and also the basketball team. Yes, the Lakers, yeah. Those I'm a huge sports guy. All right, so and the aspiration of the company going forward is to use this hub to connect many more connected sort of health things, from patches and watches and credit cards that embed accelerometers and other types of like injectables, inhalables, other sorts of medication packaging. And I just wanted to show you some of the things that before leaving the company that we were working on, which was a watch that shows the same sort of Google Calendar view of your calendar around the outside, but then also sort of an encoded view of your own stress level as measured by shining light into your arm to do pulse rate variability and GSR, galvanic skin response, taken together. Sort of soft plush scales that show you weight trends, stickers that stick on and do accelerometry, and these are my favorite two sort of conceptual designs that which I don't think are going forward. One is a spirometer that embeds a pico projector so that you can do, I think pico projectors are awesome, and it's like a technology that we've been all waiting for the last 7 or 8 years, and it's finally at the price point and at the performance level where you could do something probably not this small, but maybe that small. So this is for childhood asthma, where right now spirometry, or where you test your lung function by blowing, like it's these huge $1,000 medicalized awful devices, and if you made it fun, like a kazoo, made some noise, and it could show you like sort of a spirograph pattern as you blow it, I think it would, like that sort of gamification would be a fun feature. And the other one is about food, and food is one of these impossible things to do quantified self around, because people so rarely are willing to like log exactly what you eat or even take a picture of the food. Like, it's just too much work. So this idea is, why not just make a salt shaker that has a 360-degree camera and an internet connection, like outsource it, just Mechanical Turk, like what's the stuff on your table, and then reproject with a pico projector adjacent to the food, like this is what you're eating, and this is what our best guess on calories is, and this was flown in from Alaska, and so you're not being green. I think that's a cool idea. Okay, ready for furniture? Good. All right, so I've been at the Media Lab teaching for about 4 years, and as a researcher now for the last year, thinking about Enchanted Furniture. And why furniture? Well, I think furniture, I'm very curious about a lot of features of furniture that are different from mobile, and I'll try to explain why. Like furniture, we already interact with furniture every day. We already settle down at the breakfast table and occupy desk chairs and have coffee on coffee tables and open cabinets in our kitchen. And it seems like those gestures are something you could mine or embed apps into, and they might be used, as opposed to all the apps that you've downloaded on your phone and you don't use. And why are you so thrilled about mobile anyway? Like you really want to sit in a little tiny chair like that around your house? Like in your house, you'd rather sit in an Eames chair. And you're having your friends over, you're really going to cook on one of those? Like you'd rather have the Viking stove. And cutting vegetables, you're going to use one of those? You'd rather have one of those, or 10 of those. And it seems like the maturation of technology as the price points fall is, and as I don't know if people read What Technology Wants. It's sort of a terrible title for a book, but Kevin Kelly wrote it last year. But one of my favorite books from last year, and it sort of parallels the maturation of biological systems with the maturation of technology systems. And it says we won't see convergence. We will see increasing complexity. We'll see increasing specialization. We'll see increasing redundancy. And so don't wait for like the right size Android device to succeed and take over. Like they're going to be here. Like they're going to be all of these sizes, and all of these functions are going to be present as technology matures. And we have some precedent for furniture with technology embedded, like jukeboxes, and these were beautiful mid-century stereos, and these before that, and toilets in Japan. I love that icon. And we've been thinking about embedding technology in things at the Media Lab for a long time, like these music bottles that have little sensors that sort of let out information. I'm sure you've seen these things. Tabletop displays that support multiple people doing things at the same time with pucks and projectors. But I've been, maybe because my wife is a psychoanalyst, I've been thinking about what happens when you put the couch on the couch? Like what happens when you put the couch on the therapeutic couch? Like what does it tell you? What do all these forms tell you? Like the cabinetry, when I interview it, tells me people think I'm about storage, but I'm really about discovery, and I'm about surprise, and I'm about revealing things to people. And I say, oh, very interesting. And so I sort of think about like what's the pairing of apps with the ordinary canonical furniture forms that we all know and love and accept and buy today. So the question for you guys is, what's the appification of furniture? What will you appify? And I just want to show you 7 things actually, that I've been appifying over the last couple of months. Ready? The first one is a cabinet. This is the bad IKEA version, since we had sort of, IKEA is a really cheap material to hack. And this just opens, this is like the red phone in the president's office, right? That just connects to one other person. So this is a cabinet that has a proximity sensor, so you know when the other people are around. So you don't have to like call up someone and say like, are you ready to do a Skype session now? Which is like the reason I don't use it with my parents is like we always have to have these coordination calls. So you know when the other person is around, and it's the right height. These people are different heights, and it's sort of nice to be having like this sort of piece of furniture that has the right height that's eye level. And we disguise as Errol Morris did in his films, and I did it in a museum exhibit like 20 years ago. If you put a piece of half-silvered mirror, the display below and a half-silvered mirror, then you can put the video camera like right behind, like looking directly in their eyes, and it's so much nicer. Oh, it's so much nicer than looking into people's foreheads all day. And we also put LEDs on the inside of the door so that it's actually like well lit, as opposed to most Skype sessions, which are about looking out their windows. So if you step up to the cabinet, that you open it, they go to white LEDs, and and you're well lit. And now we have a beautiful walnut version because we've been working with some furniture designers. And if you know furniture designers that we should collaborate with, that would be awesome, because I was over at Vitra, which is in Basel, which is a sort of old school furniture company, and there's a furniture design department at RISD, and we're trying to sort of do a Vitra plus RISD plus MIT mashup, because we all have different skills. The next one I want to tell you about is a coffee table. I actually tried, I don't know, about 8-10 years ago with AltaVista Image Search to hook up Dragon to AltaVista Image Search, just to like make ambient wallpaper. So it's like Dragon was just trying just to recognize everything in the room, like all conversations in the room. We had like a shotgun mic, and it was just trying as hard as it could to recognize everything. And then AltaVista Image Search was doing image searches on all the things that could be recognized. And it was sort of interesting and sort of pornographic, and like it was just very noisy, and it sort of took over the conversation. I think it took over for a couple of reasons. One is it was on a plasma screen on the wall, so you were talking to someone and you kept like doing that, which is really annoying. And I think it's actually not as annoying to look down as it is to look to the side. So putting this on a table makes more sense. And we also limited the scope of what's being searched to just your Facebook photos. And the nice thing about your Facebook photos is they're oftentimes geotagged and sometimes tagged with people. And so rather than just doing searches on all images on AltaVista or Google, this brings up images as you mention them. And we're using the phone. I mean, I'm still interested in phones, but we're using a phone to authenticate. So basically, you put your phone down on the table, and that turns it on. And then the photos like leak out of your phone. But right now we're using Wi-Fi as a mechanism to get the photos there. I'd love your feedback on any of these things, and I also want to find places to like install them, so you can like live with them and tell me how you think they could be better. I'm also I've been interested because of ambient devices in how people consume energy, and one of the things you keep getting stuck on if you've ever been in this field is the units are not something anyone understands, like kilowatt hours. Like people don't have a sense for what that is, and also if you translate it into dollars, it's hardly ever compelling. Like, you saved 11 cents today, like, well done. And people are like, oh, why did I even bother? So you could annualize it, but then, anyway. So I've decided this is sort of like a rowing machine where you get them to norm to themselves. So this shows you whether you're beating yourself or not beating yourself, your numbers over the last 4 or 5 days averaged. And it just shows it over the base of a clock. So if it's 122 and you're underspending by an hour versus overspending by an hour, hopefully the colors make sense. Anyway, that might be fluid. But I think expressing it as time is something that's, I think, more useful. The Pandora Chair is interesting because it's taking this gesture, this sort of relaxing, lean-back gesture, and mapping it to Pandora stations that you already have and you already listen to. So the way that it works is there's just a tilt sensor in the chair. We're just using an iTouch, which has a gyro, or it's actually the Samsung Galaxy whatever touch thing it's called, and it uses the phone to sort of log you in, and then it plays more upbeat stations or more mellow stations based on your angle of repose. And then I'm not sure if this is going to work very well yet because we haven't tested it with enough people, but I sort of like the idea that Bjork is north or something. Like there's some directionality in terms of the where if you're looking out the windows, there's some certain music versus otherwise, and you spin to go to the next song. And again, we're like tearing up IKEA chairs to make this happen. This is Chris, one of the Europs. The next, the chandelier is something that it just shows sort of this aggregate view of social activity. So it's not really useful, but it's just sort of pretty to see the lights. As someone tweets, they increase in brightness and then they decay over time. So it doesn't really give you a sense of, because you can't remember who's mapped to which bulb, but you can see whether there's like activity happening right now, which I think is nice. The doorbell is something I've had in my house for the last 5 weeks, and it's sort of surprisingly nice. So it basically generalizes the idea of a doorbell to being not just is someone downstairs at the apartment, but is someone on the way here. So we set up these geofences. That's where I live in Brookline. And so it plays one tune when you're like crossing the BU Bridge, another tune when you're closer, and another tune when you're sort of almost downstairs. And it sort of solves this problem of people texting, like I'm always, texting in the car or calling in the car, like I'm almost home, no, really trust me, I'm almost home. We did have one person say that they usually lie, so they actually wouldn't want this. I'm leaving, I'm almost home, right. And the last one that I wanted to share probably has the best business potential, which is it's a restocking trash can. So I don't know how many people have signed up for Amazon Prime, but the awesome thing about Amazon Prime is you don't pay for shipping, right? So you end up just buying all kinds of things on Amazon that you wouldn't otherwise buy, like a new toothbrush, like, I'll just barcode scan. Right now it's just doing barcode scanning, but it has a little barcode scanner on the inside, and it just does an auto order. And we just, one of the interesting apps that we built on top of it was feedback for either green or nutritional or cost feedback. So it's either negative or positive in terms of feedback. Like you can sort of get a locally sourced like locally sourced, nice job, or coconut water shipped all the way from Asia. Really? Like, you really want more of that? And if you don't, you just kick the can to undo. So I like the mapping on that. So you could get sort of like blueberry juice, like lots of antioxidants, or you could say third box of Oreos this week, or out of season strawberries. So I like the idea that you're not actually making an interface that is going to necessarily change your behavior, but you're just adding a little bit of content into the interaction. So why are these better than mobile? You could argue with me that they may not be better than mobile, because they're certainly sort of situated. But I think I tried to sum it up into like, these are 6 things that they have that are better than mobile. One is, like, you never have to go to an app to see this data, and you probably wouldn't go to the app to see the energy data. But so that has the glanceability. The coffee table has like sort of much bigger, better resolution. I think the chandelier and the doorbell sort of have this subtlety to them that you wouldn't have if you had to go to an app. The nice thing about the Skype cabinet is, it's always there, it's always on, and you're more likely to have more frequent, shorter conversations, I think. We'll find out whether that's true. If you have this sort of most serendipitous interaction. The chair sort of is emblematic, I think, of these natural gestures like leaning back. And the nice thing about a trash can is, like, they sell trash cans in lots of places. They don't sell Ambien Orbs. I mean, like, except for Brookstone and Sharper Image. Like, you can't go, like, we'd go talk to Target about, like, will you sell the Ambien Orb? And they'd say, I really like the idea, but we don't have a category for ambient devices. No, like, does it go into mobile next to the phones? Does it go next to weather stations? We don't get it. So as you think about these enchanting things, you could think of it in terms of levels. You could think about, if you've got a scale, like adding augmenting first with connectivity to the web seems like a first step. Personalizing it to set a goal, for example, through Microsoft Health Vault, seems like a next step. Socialization, sharing things over social networks seems like another step. Gamification, like sort of the Zynga level, seems like a next step, and the sort of final nirvana is the Disney level of sort of embedding it in some sort of narrative where you're playing for a character, or it's giving you more information about something that has sort of narrative features. Is that helpful? So don't make Hal. Thank you. Which of the furniture do you think is most interesting, or would you want to live with? Anything? Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to have the IKEA Skype box for my son.
Don't call it the IKEA Skype box.
Sorry.
It's just the Skype cabinet.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'd like
It's beautiful walnut now. It's like we have a new one.
the beautiful Christie walnut cabinet, so that my son can just hang out and talk with his grandparents when either or both are available. That'd be nice.
How is he like that? His eyes are like that big, or
Yeah.
that big, or
The first one.
the first one?
38 inches.
Yeah. He also can't spill juice on it, and he can't drop your iPad too, which is
Isn't
good.
that nice? That's lovely.
Great. Thanks. Yeah.
I really like the trash can. Well, I like a lot of them, but I like the Pandora Chair. But the trash can seems like it has a lot of behavioral modification potential in that.
Like social engineering.
Right,
potential.
especially if you're scanning barcodes, you can scan basically the weight of the trash that you're doing, how much you're contributing to local trash amounts and things like that. That would be difficult. That would be kind of a pain to get in other ways, but it's a very common place that you're putting trash in that situation. So very cool.
Yeah, I think to do that we'd need a scale, like a microgram scale, and we'd also need a camera, because right now it's just a barcode scanner that's just feeding stuff to Amazon.
Sure, I mean, but scanning the
SKUs.
barcodes, don't the products themselves have weights often? And so if you, yeah, I don't
It's
know.
sort of
there
it's
might be
measuring,
data.
as opposed to smart fridges, it's sort of measuring the other end. It's measuring it on the way out once you've consumed it.
Want to recycle it, so
Yeah,
like when you go to Whole Foods, it tells you if you got leftover food, put it here. Napkins, put it here. Plastic wrap from the utensils, trash.
Right.
So you really see where stuff goes. And then-
do you think it should be a recycling bin? Yes.
I can tell you where to put it. You scan it before you
Well, you could scan it for all sorts. I wouldn't want to reorder food. Sometimes I think that was a mistake. And sometimes I remove packaging so it's fit in the refrigerator.
You sort of have to dwell for a second before you, like, it's easy to just throw things out without reordering them. And it does give you the feedback of like, and before you put it in.
When you scan it and it rotates to the right canister. So the plastic one.
Yeah. It could.
Salt shaker, by the way,
Oh, you like the salt shaker?
sodium. I'd be very interested in the calories, and if it remembered the last time I ate that, and if they're going to make you feel better or worse.
Yeah.
That I can see is behavior much.
She likes the camera around your food. There was a friend installed a webcam, like a Wi-Fi webcam, on the ceiling above their dining room table, so that they could just easily see like what am I eating over time, and maybe even who's eating, who's here, which I think is I would love to try that too, because it just like that seems like an interesting diary to make for yourself of like, I ate alone again, I ate alone, I ate with my wife, I ate with a kid, I ate alone, you could see.
I think some of that is how much data can you deal with at a given moment, and how much data of that nature do you automatically record, and how much are you so busy with other things that you need a device to record it? Because some of these things, like I didn't get the Facebook table because I don't trust Facebook, I don't trust Google, I don't trust any of that stuff. Oh, sorry.
There are, I don't know if you've seen the tree map of how many photos are uploaded to Facebook versus other sites. Like, I love Flickr and use Flickr, and Flickr's like this big compared to Facebook. 250 million photos a day to Facebook. It's completely completely dominating photo sharing.
Well, it's dominating a lot, except that, from what I understand, once you upload it to Facebook, they own it. So if you're an artist or something and use that vehicle to share it with your friends,
Right.
you've lost the copyright. So
Really?
things like
You
that's
really?
what I've heard.
Huh, wow.
A lot of my friends, and what I see with artists.
I've heard about Pinterest. I don't know whether that's true of Facebook. Pinterest. Pinterest is sort of the hot social network of the year. Yeah. Don't use it. Just kidding. Yes.
I want energy monitoring, but I also need to know what's eating my energy and how I can change my behavior.
Right. Yep. I installed, there's a company called Powerhouse Dynamics, which is local, that does circuit-by-circuit analysis. So it's an octopus of a system, because you mount a box next to your circuit board, and then you put clamps around 40 or so circuits, and then it gives you all kinds of data that's online. And it's something I actually wanted to bring up was, I don't know, how many people have read the new Kahneman book called Thinking Fast and Slow? It's very interesting, but I think a lot of the ambient device examples are what he calls System 1, which is things where it's this fast reaction, almost like an impulse purchase. Like, you don't think about it very much, and it's the type of behavior that we exhibit when we sort of copy our friends, or but it's not a considered moment. And then System 2 is the thinking slow bit, which is what you're asking for, which is show me where all of my data is being used, show me whether I should get rid of my fridge, and that sort of analysis. And I think most of data visualization, most of the field is concerned with System 2 considered thinking. And I think actually the biggest, not to be anti-InfoViz, but I think most people who are into InfoViz don't appreciate how little time most people will spend looking at their InfoViz. And if you instead focused on ambience.
I don't think I can see the dishwasher turned on.
No, you can't. You can't. But you will look at it if it's in the kitchen maybe 20 times a day, and you'll think about energy more. And I don't know how many times you're going to go to that website and analyze your usage.
Because you can also get devices that you plug into individual outlets.
Yep, right. Belkin has a line called Conserve that does that, where you can plug it into individual outlets. But my point is, you have to be really dedicated to either buy the Powerhouse Dynamics thing for $400 and install it, where your electrician will be like, nah, I don't do that, which would happen to me, or like buying Belkin Conserve and you plug things in and you look at the data and you sort of analyze it. My point is, like, there's a whole bigger opportunity, which is just get people to think about energy 10 times a day, and they will change their behavior. Yes.
So I wanted to applaud you for solving that problem of looking at the webcam and seeing someone else's forehead or other facial feature, not the eye to eye. So I worked at WebEx and another company, and every time I was like, can we put the video at least closer to, and it was impossible to get him to do it.
Can we cut a hole in the center of the monitor and just put a webcam right there?
Can we do what he just did?
Yeah.
So I applaud you on that. And then on the Skype chair, I love that idea, and I wish that...
Pandora Chair?
Exactly.
The music.
Well, maybe there was a Freudian slip there, because I wish that there was a way to not only have the cool music playing, but also to, with my cell phone, call my friends and hear it through this system, like overlaid, over the music, and to sort of hang out with them while talking and moving around. I think that could be a pretty...
My music, my people.
Exactly. Put them together and bam, there you go. Yeah.
Great.
So
you should prototype it.
Well, maybe. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Yep.
I like the idea of having the high quality stereo phone call in a soft plush place. Yeah.
So I'd like you to wire all my furniture by retrofitting with pucks or limpet mines or something. And then you could analyze just sort of how active I am. Am I wasting too much time watching TV? Am I doing, spending more time like hobbies or training or exercising? You could maybe if I try to be more active, get more sleep or something, if I was trying to change my lifestyle pattern, I could see that. If you looked at all the...
Well, it's an interesting point about how reflective, there's a quantified self movement that's all about sort of instrumenting up your life and trying to put you in these reflective moments to see what your behavior is, versus the social engineering, like giving people feedback about their trash and trashing them about their trash. But I don't know. There was one prototype I wanted to build for our family, which would have like the TV would be on a Lazy Susan, and you would like put a little stepper motor in there so that after like 9:30 the TV would just sort of spin to be like a nice Japanese print or something on the other side, and there's nothing you could do about it because that's what I need, is the sort of late night TV, or like after an hour of watching some kids show, or like after the screen time budget is expired for the week, it would just turn. But that's a very sort of paternalistic interface, and I don't know.
You have to want something to change, and then you'd be interested to see if it's changing.
Yeah.
I installed a Nest thermostat.
Oh yeah, me too.
I was just wondering what you...
Why don't you just tell people what it is, so in case they know?
Gee, it's a little bit hard to describe almost. After initial training...
It's a thermostat. It's a little round thermostat.
Round, very elegant design. After initial training, it sort of learns your behaviors, your patterns, when you're home and not home, that sort of thing. And you can access it remotely from a web app on iOS or Android, and so it's sort of a cool device. But
and it has a motion sensor, so it tries to guess when you're away.
That's right. And when you walk into the room, all that. So I still have sort of a love-hate relationship with it. I was wondering what you think of it. If you have any thoughts.
I think they're trying. I know some of the people who are working on it. I think it's a beautiful object, and I bought it for its beautiful objectness. And I was sort of curious. I was curious whether the machine learning bit would be more would actually learn about me. So far, it doesn't seem to be learning. Like I set my own points of like at 8 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, then turn the thermostat up, and like I set a schedule, and so far it hasn't deviated from that schedule. But it seems like it. I mean, for anybody who's doing machine learning, you have this, like if you're trying to infer what people want, and there's a mixture of, like, if they've told you that they want it warm, like in the winter, that I want the house warmed up at 6 o'clock, but I stay in bed until 8, like, should you disregard what I told you and start a new behavior? Like, it's just, it's a really hard problem to solve without making me really mad at you.
Yeah. Little anecdote too. My kids don't live at home anymore, and they've always complained about I kept the thermostat too low, and I made the mistake of giving them the password to my thermostat.
Oh, right.
And so for the dog's sake at home, they've gone in and upped the temperature of my house.
That's another hazard. I think there's hope for that. Once there are enough of those installed, then you could have deals with the energy company where the energy company, gives you a $20 discount in order to have the right in the summer to turn down your AC or to change the set point on your AC, 4 times a summer or something, like, which would actually decrease the need to build new power plants significantly, because it's those, peak days that are the problem. But I also in the energy management space, I saw a paper from a PhD who was looking at how sensitive we are to changes in temperature, and he believed that you could actually change the thermostat by 3 or 4 degrees without most people noticing, and save people a lot of money that way. Like you say you want it down to 60 degrees in the summer, but if over 4 hours, if I go up to 64, like you're not going to notice, and you're going to be happier because it's going to save you money. So I think there's hope for those types of apps on that device. Yeah.
So I was wondering about the Google Latitude thing. So I was just wondering how well it worked for you. I thought when you just mentioned it, I was like, wow, this would be great, because I always get frustrated that my husband said, I'm leaving, and then somebody stopped him in the corridor, and half an hour later he's still at work. And
it's not going to solve that.
It just calls, engineers. But I'm wondering if like it would just drive me more crazy because not only he has coworkers, but also we have very friendly neighbors that he would be 5 minutes away from home for next 30 minutes because he just stopped. Like with this proximity.
Yeah, especially if there's like a pub like right around the corner. he seemed to be home, but he's not here.
So I wondered just how well it worked for you.
Yeah. I usually don't stop at the pub on the way home, so it seems to offer a nice, and also my wife is slightly obsessive, so it seems to offer enough information for her to most of the time hear that I'm on my way, and to hear sounds twice on the way home, so that so it solves the problem of not texting. And also texting doesn't often work because usually at the end of the day, like her phone is recharging someplace, and so it's not on her person anyway, and it's not safe to call from my bike, and that sort of thing. So I sort of like the idea that these things can work 50% of the time, and it suffices, and it's still delightful. That's sort of what's nice about the coffee table is like it doesn't have to recognize every word. It can recognize literally like 20 or 30% of the words, and still like offer this like, oh my gosh, I did just mention like Lisbon, and there's a picture of Lisbon right there. So it can sort of be delightful without having to work all the time, which I think is a good that's something more of us should be so lucky as to have that sort of feature in our work, right? If it works 20% of the time, people love us. That would be great.
David, have you thought
last question?
Have you thought of expanding that directional, the Latitudes product to things like pizza delivery, or the cable guy is coming, it's time to go home, or because they always make you wait. Nobody wants to wait, so you sell the delivery.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
The package is coming. I don't want to leave it on the porch. It's expensive. I got to get home now. Or it's.
Have you used Uber, the Uber cab app?
No.
It sort of does that. It's a cabs. It's like a black car service that you can see where the cars are, and you can see where the car is coming, and it's really it's quite.
Sounds good.
It's quite calming to know like there is a car and they are on their way, and here's where they are.
Calming, yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah.
Hey, I bet you have a great deal of fun at your job. That sounds like great fun.
It's a blast.
Are there any, can you throw out any other rejected ideas? Some of the things that people have thought of that just didn't cut it?
Yes, that's a really good question. So some of the things that we've rejected, let's see. Last semester, we built a centerpiece for a table that would try to achieve conversational balance in the table, because it would give you this sort of visualization of the last 10 minutes of the conversation. So if you're just totally dominating the conversation, you would see, and it was trying to be this sort of nice, it was just, for example, no, but it shows like there are four microphones in the side that are very directional, and a floral pattern is built, like sort of grows out from as you're talking. So ideally you get this beautiful 4-color floral pattern if everyone's contributing equally. Otherwise you just get dominating foliage from your direction or whatever. But and people really, I knew that a bar graph of the same information would feel too like we're trying. Pardon?
Bar graph.
Yeah, bar graph. You're sort of like, it would feel too much like we're trying to change people's behavior. Like we have an agenda here of like everyone should be contributing. So I thought, oh, if we made it like this beautiful floral thing, maybe we could get away from that. But everybody who tried it, it didn't make the people that were quiet talk more, and it made everyone else, just sort of like too concerned with conversational balance that it would just destroyed all the conversations. So that one didn't work. And maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
Huh.
Like for meetings. Conference call.
Right. Okay. If you wanted, I'll give you the code. We also did like a psychoanalytic couch that would help you talk to your future self. So you'd lie down. Have you seen those multi-year diaries that show where you February 3rd rolls around and you read what you wrote the last 3 years on February 3rd, and then you write a little thing to read. So you write a little thing, but then you roll around to it every year. So we thought it would be fun to do that in audio, like in a therapeutic sort of couch. But it just was fraught with interface problems, like how do you know it's recording? How do you not hear your friend's data? How long of a duration do you record for without having buttons and that sort of thing? And it was sort of too poetic and not practical. So I'm sure there are others. That's a good question. Thanks for being attentive. This was fun.
All right. Thank you.